Good afternoon, everyone. Today I will be presenting a policy analysis focused on the pressing issue of affordable housing. Across the United States and in many urban areas worldwide, the crisis of affordable housing has reached critical levels. For many low-income families, the dream of stable, affordable housing is increasingly out of reach. Affordable housing is a growing crisis in urban and suburban areas. Rising rent, limited public housing, and high move-in fees are making it harder for low-income families to secure stable housing. There aren't enough public housing units or vouchers to meet the demand. Rent is rising faster than wages, especially in high-cost cities, making housing unaffordable for many. High upfront costs like deposits and application fees create additional barriers for renters. As you see, these challenges lead to homelessness, housing instability, and growing inequality. The National Low Income Housing Coalition reports only 37 affordable rental homes per every 100 low income households. This is a serious issue, and in the next slides, we'll explore potential solutions. Let's take a closer look at the research behind the affordable housing crisis. Public housing and vouchers. The National Low Income Housing Coalition found there's a severe shortage of affordable homes for extremely low income renters. For every 100 households that need affordable housing, there are only 37 available units. The Housing Choice Voucher Program serves 2.3 million families, but over 10 million are eligible, leaving a very large gap in support. Inflated rent costs. Research from Zillow shows that the rent is increasing faster than wages in many areas. In high cost cities like New York, San Francisco, and LA, rent often exceeds 30% of the median income, which HUD deems unaffordable. Then there's extremely excessive move-in fees. The Urban Institute reports that move-in costs like security deposits and application fees can total from $1,000 to $3,000, and this makes it difficult for many low-income families to get even started with a rental. These findings highlight the scale of the problem and the urgent need for effective solutions to provide housing affordability more likely than to improve it. Now let's explore some policy solutions to address the affordable housing crisis. Here are four key policy alternatives. To expand public housing and vouchers, increasing funding for housing vouchers and expanding public housing would help serve more low-income families. Implementing rent control can limit the rate at which rent increases, ensuring long-term affordability. Introduce rent subsidies and housing funds, providing target rent subsidies or creating housing using trust funds. This could offer direct financial support to low-income renters and limit initial fees for renters. Put a cap on move-in fees to reduce the financial barriers for renters. This could help families secure housing. And for each of these policies, we'll have to evaluate them based on four criteria: equity, cost effectiveness, feasibility, and sustainability. You have to ask these questions. Are the benefits worth the investment? Do these policies provide a good return on public funds? Can these policies be realistically implemented given political, economic, and logistic constraints? Will these policies provide long-term solutions for low-income housing families? And in the next slide, we'll analyze these policies in more detail to offer specific recommendations. Now let's take a look at each policy a little more in detail, looking at the pros, the cons, and specific recommendations. To expand public housing and voucher programs, that would provide direct support for low-income families, increasing access to affordable housing. However, the con to that would be high costs and long waiting lists for public housing, which could potentially be insufficient and meet demands. My recommendation for that would be to increase funding for vouchers and consider offering a tax incentive to landlords who accept them. This would help expand housing options without the need for new large developments. Then we have rent control and stabilization. The pro to this would be it can help ensure long-term affordability and protect tenants from rent hikes. However, it is a con because this can discourage new housing development, potentially limiting supply in the long run. My recommendation for that is to implement rent stabilization rather than strict rent control, allowing reasonable annual increases while protecting tenants and maintaining some market flexibility. Then we have rent subsidies and housing trust funds. This will provide direct financial assistance, helping low income renters immediately and can stimulate the construction of affordable housing. But the con to that would be ongoing funding is required. This would definitely be a block to run into. It may be difficult to target assistance effectively. My recommendation to that is to expand housing trust funds and increase funding for rent subsidy programs to directly support renters in need. And then we have capping move-in fees. This will reduce the financial barriers that people have when it comes to securing a home. However, this can cause landlords to want to raise the rent just to compensate for low move-in fees. So my recommendation to that would be to limit the move-in fees to a reasonable amount and then offer tax relief to landlords to balance out the financial impact. These options, if implemented together, can make a significant impact on improving housing affordability, but each requires careful balance in ensuring long-term sustainability. In the next slide, we'll summarize the overall conclusions in the next steps. As we wrap up addressing the affordable housing crisis, it requires a multi-pronged approach. We see now that no single policy will solve the problem, but together these solutions can make a significant difference. Providing comprehensive solutions by expanding public housing, implementing rent control, offering rent subsidies, and capping move-in fees are all critical components of a broader strategy to improve affordability. Key considerations to keep in mind is that we need to ensure that these policies are equitable, cost-effective, feasible, and sustainable. This means targeting support where it's most needed while also considering long-term financial sustainability. Then we have to make sure that we consider the long-term impact. By reducing financial barriers and improving access to affordable housing, these policies can help prevent homelessness, reduce economic inequality, and provide long-term stability for millions of families. And our next steps moving forward is essential to secure funding, fostering partnerships, and ensure that these policies are implemented in ways that truly serve low-income renters and create lasting change. In conclusion, while the challenge is complex, the proposed solutions provide a solid foundation for making housing more affordable and accessible for those who are in need most. Thank you.